You're watching the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent Austen Show.
All right, we got an update on that guy right there, Christian Kirk. He has a calf injury. That's why he was held out of practice. And we heard the word cautionary a couple of times today.
What would you consider a calf injury, a lingering injury?
It just depends, I guess, the severity of it. But I don't like those soft tissue injuries because they usually last a little bit. Now, I also don't care if Christian Kirk practices until Miami week. Like, I'd be okay with it. So.
Oh, yeah. Shut him down.
Yeah. So if you got to shut him down, shut him down. The Jags actually are pretty light on the injury front overall. I think Daniel Thomas is going to be same type of deal. He's held out today, but not a big thing. Like they really just don't want to push it too much with him. He's just sore. And I think Ezra Cleveland, same way. Like the media contingent today was asking Doug about Ezra Cleveland. It's like, hey, you can shut him down. He's like, no, we're not doing any of that. We just got to keep an eye on the heel gets sore.
I got you.
So,
man, I wish I had that excuse of soreness back when I was playing.
Yeah. The ego for the offensive line at times was sore.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're sore? Well, it sounds like a you problem. Get out there and foam roll it or something.
Yeah,
let's go.
It is kind of fun. Yeah, I know you probably didn't miss too many practices because of soreness.
Sure didn't. Oh, I'm sorry, you're sore? Yeah, go take these scout team reps still.
I was going to say, here's your remedy for being sore.
Yeah.
Go to the second practice of the day.
No, without a doubt. And then, like, I've told this story before, but when I was in Kansas City, they didn't believe in, like, pre-game, like, pre-warm-ups. Like, we didn't warm up at all because the philosophy from the strength coach was like, well, lions don't get warmed up in the jungle, so why would we get warmed up? And I could have sworn when I've watched, like, nature documentaries, I've seen lions, like, stretch out a little bit when they're laying in the sun. Nevertheless, my very first day of training camp in Kansas City, I'm like, I foam roll like I always do, but then I'm walking out there still a little stiff, getting ready to stretch out, and they're like, no, we don't do that here. I go, excuse me, and we got right into it. Like, we started sprinting right away.
So was that because there was a time, and I don't even know if it's still a thing. There was a time where they said you don't need to stretch, right? I mean, like there was a sports science kind of thought that kind of getting warmed up, getting running, all that stuff first, and then maybe stretch a little bit after that. But stretching wasn't as important as some people thought.
So stretching's good for cooling down. Stretching, like just like static stretching, they call it. Man, I'm on my science stuff today. Static stretching is better when you're all warmed up. Or like after a workout.
Okay.
Dynamic stretching or like mobility work is good before. We didn't do any of that. It was just like, all right, let's go practice because we're lions in the Serengeti.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to go sports science rather than you were lions.
No, we were lions in the Serengeti from what I was told. So
how were do you remember how the injuries were?
Pretty standard, like, a few here or there.
So it wasn't like it was like, I can't believe, that guy got fired because
No, for sure. I mean, I think the guy might still be in business doing his thing. Now, he may have changed his philosophy a little bit, but yeah.
Which that often is a world that evolves, based on the current trends or more science and everything else. So I guess that part isn't too surprising. It's funny to read in everybody else's thought. Coming out of practice yesterday onto the show, and we're showing you highlights and of some highlights and some practice and talking and walking through it. And the feel was, hey, the Jaguars offense did pretty well, and the Jaguars kind of acquitted themselves nicely yesterday. Mm-hmm. There was the offensive line concern with Vita Vea pushing people around. What else is new? But, you read stuff later in the day coming out of Tampa and everywhere else too. It's like, nah, that was really the thought. Like it almost like it kept piggybacking and compounding that the Jags actually had a really good day yesterday. So my expectation today is the Bucs are going to have a good day.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of how these go? A little bit, usually a little give and take.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of the ebbs and flows, if you will. I mean, I heard like Tampa Bay on offense looked pretty good as well, though.
Yeah,
I mean that's what some reports are saying. I mean, I don't know. It
just depends what you read.
If you're not there and watching both like practices of like the offense and defense, it's really hard to get.
It's also hard to do.
Who won? Yeah, it's almost impossible. So I mean, I read some things that said that Tampa Bay, like the wide receivers, looked all right. I mean, I know Mike Evans walked off gingerly by himself, so I think he's okay, but just got a little banged up. But yeah, I think both offenses look pretty well. But yeah, we'll see today, and obviously no fight so far, which is something you got to watch for.
Yeah, I didn't even think it was like close to fighting.
Yeah,
yesterday.
Unlike some other joint practices,
it looked like 180 players that are all on the same team.
Yeah.
Instead, which is what the coaches want. We'll see if that continues to be the case today. We got some morning rain, at least down there in my house. I'm not sure what it looked like up at the bank. So they are out on the field. So that's a good sign. Mm-hmm. Hamby jumping in early. Mm-hmm. Hamby's laughing. Hamby likes his burner account.
They do. I'm all about this burner account.
Yeah, so is Hamby. Look, it's
starting to be the star of the show.
I just see laughing. I'm like, well, that's not really that funny.
It's starting to be the star of the show. I love it.
I thought it was a funny comment. It's not even a funny comment.
Oh no, it's a serious comment. I think. I mean, maybe the offensive line did get pushed on a little bit yesterday.
I just want to talk about the O-line.
Yeah,
just letting y'all know that I want to talk about the O-line no matter what right now.
Who is that?
It was
Hamby. Which family member?
The username was formerly Percules.
Oh, okay. Playing the game well, Percules.
I like that.
I had 3 takes today from Doug Pederson.
Okay.
He's not crazy. He doesn't give you a lot soundbite-wise.
Sure.
But I thought there were 3 things that caught my attention. Listen to it. I'll start backwards. One, I think, they do like, he's very quiet in exchange about Cooper Hodges. You can tell they like him. So much so that I got, and we've known this, I mean, they really liked him last year in camp too. You do kind of wonder what they would have done with Sheriff if they had a chance to groom Hodges all last year. Would they be willing to go there already? Would they say, okay, yeah, we can go with the young guy? Would they feel confident? Have 2 young guys, on that offensive line? But it also gives you at least a little thought that maybe this is their future right guard. Like they might have drafted their future right guard and they have a right tackle who's a young player. So that's kind of encouraging on one hand. And then I also think this question comes in my mind, which I might ask at some point. If you could label one of these like gem kind of players that you've talked about, like these back end guys, and maybe right now, like Christian Braswell's getting a bunch of headlines, right? Parker Washington's getting a bunch of headlines. But it'd be interesting to see where a guy like Cooper Hodges would stack on their list the last 2 drafts of, hey, I would put my money on this guy to be like an 8 to 10 year pro in the league. And I wonder where Cooper Hodges would fit on that list.
I mean, he could definitely fit on the list. I think he had 50 snaps in his against the Chiefs.
Yeah,
it shows that they like him a lot. But the biggest thing is, can you be a starter in the league? I mean, it's one thing if we're talking about depth and you're on the team and you're a late round guy or an undrafted free agent. Okay, that's great. I'm not going to call you a gem quite yet, but knock on wood, if somebody goes down, if a guard goes down for the Jacksonville Jaguars, you insert Cooper Hodges there. Will you skip a beat? Will you even notice Cooper Hodges? So there's opportunity there, but until we see him, I think, take starting meaningful reps in real games, it's hard to say, oh, this guy could be the real deal.
Yeah, it's kind of all pie in the sky right now, and I understand that, but I think they like what they saw again.
Sure.
He's being coy a little bit because he doesn't want to say a whole lot of it. That's when you can always tell. I've been around this thing long enough to know. The other thing that caught my attention was Arik Armstead, and I get it in a veteran point of view. This guy's been in the league. He's played a lot of good football. He's 30 years old. He doesn't need this right now. But I don't usually hear coaches so adamantly say, yeah, I don't need to see him right now. And Doug said that multiple times over the last really couple of weeks where they could get him back on the field, I think, even today if they wanted to, or tomorrow or next week. And they're either concerned, like your panic button concern, that, hey, we don't want to push it at all because we want him healthy at week 1, or he just genuinely thinks, this guy's such a good player, I really don't need him to play in August for him to be good when we need him to be good. And there are probably a lot of guys like that, but you don't hear coaches kind of vocally say that. Doug is actually saying that. Doug's like, yeah, I don't need to see him right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I get this guy's obviously an experienced vet, has played at a high level for a long time. I love how Hammy put the panic button there for me because I'm getting ready to press it in a second. I also would like to see him just go through individual drills then and things, at least be part of the. I mean, he's obviously a part of the team. He's in the meeting rooms. He's watching film with the younger guys. I'm sure he's coaching them up great, and that's one of the benefits of having a veteran like that here, a la Calais Campbell. But eventually, you're going to have to get into game shape. You just can't, especially from that position, where you just can't sit out the entire time, come in week 1 against Miami and expect to be ready to go. So I get easing him back slowly, and whether that's more of just from the experience factor or are they still worried about the injury? I'm getting better with it. There it is. Or if they're worried about the injury, whatever the case may be, but you're going to have to get him acclimated somehow, some way in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, and I don't know what that looks like, but there's another part of this that when we talked about Armstead maybe a bunch in the offseason about free agency, it's a huge signing, right? What's your favorite signing? Mm-hmm. And I think it was a lot of our favorite signings because of the domino effect there. It's a really good football player. But I was telling Hamby this before the show. I think what happens is we haven't seen him out there, so he kind of goes out of sight, out of mind.
Sure.
Right? And sure, Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker are coming along. We're talking about actually a defensive line. Like I've said it many times, I think there's a certain amount of depth here that could be pretty good. Guys flashing. You wonder what it's going to look like. And Doug even said, hey, there's a lot of competition on that D-line right now. But you forget that this guy's like a really good player. He's not just like a player that's coming back into the fold at some point. Like, he is a really good player. You have to almost take your mind back to March where how excited you were about him. So if he does play and can stay healthy, what he does to that line, I did say this on TV last night, and even when I said it, I'm like, oh, is that kind of dramatic? But I think he gives them a chance to be one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. Like, Armstead does that. If you don't have Armstead on the field, you wouldn't say that. You can say, hey, really good pass rushing tandem with Trayvon Josh, and Devon Hamilton's been playing well, and he's a good player too. But Armstead changed it to the point where you can actually, I think, say that out loud and not be like laughed at. Where you might say, hey, the Jags could look up and have the best front four in the National Football League, or at least make the argument that they do. Mm-hmm. Maybe with the Jets, or maybe with whoever you label it to be. So that's the difference for him. So it just caught my attention today. I guess we're reminded. Armstead talked to the media yesterday. We'll get into some of that in a little bit. But it's really what Doug's reaction was to it. Kind of like, I just don't need to see him. Like, yeah. I'm that confident that he's that good of a football player that I don't need to see him.
Yeah.
You just don't hear coaches say that very much this time of year.
No.
Like, everybody wants the guy to practice to get a glimpse at him.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's like the Calais Campbell effect. I think you could say the same thing about Calais Campbell when he was there. There's a certain amount of guys who've built up so much rapport where you don't need them, to exert their energy and all their, just their physicality day in and day out. But once again, I'm going to argue that I like to see some individual stuff. I like to see you just keep sharpening those tools a little bit. Maybe there's a little rust on them. You've been out for a little bit. But besides that, no, I don't need you to go all the team periods. I don't need you to go, the live periods. I don't need you to even really go the inside run hitting periods. All I need you to do is just, move around a little bit, break a sweat, which I'm sure he's doing, and be ready by week 1.
All right, one last thought for me. And I don't think this is me really reading into it, but I think the way Doug's disposition is at the podium today, my initial take was he really likes what this football team's doing and doesn't want to say it. Coming off Saturday, how they performed, how they acted, how they kind of presented, and I'm talking like the whole roster. I know we can break down whether Devin Lloyd or maybe Trevor should have thrown 4th and 5. I think, or
the run game.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of things to pick apart, but I think from a first impression standpoint, from how that looked and how it played out, and from some of the Christian Braswells and Parker Washington, because you got to remember, from a coach standpoint, fan standpoint, we want to see Trevor and Devin Lloyd and all the rest, but from a coach standpoint, I'm sure he wants to get excited about those guys too, right? That builds depth. The what you're trying to do, if you talk about developing guys and you're starting to see that development take shape, that's almost from a coaching standpoint just as rewarding as seeing Trevor or down the field through a touchdown to ETN or even BTJ catch a pass down the field 41 yards. And then it's just maybe it's practice as a total, but also Saturday night's effort and then yesterday's effort against another team. I think he just struck me as a guy that, listen, I'm not going to get overly crazy about this because it's only August, but he also was just kind of trying to squash a little bit of that internally. You can usually tell. He's not going to come out and say, like, man, we look damn good.
No, for sure.
No coach is going to say that. But I get the sense that he's pretty happy with where they are at this point when you're technically about getting set to break camp.
Yeah, I mean, that's great if he's confident and he's happy. I'm just going to say just make sure that identity is established, because we saw a run game that, with the ones-on-ones wasn't really existent, and we saw a defense that had a little problem at the get-go stopping the run. And those are two things that had to be cleaned up from last year. Those are two things that you're going to – would you agree? Is that the identity?
Yeah.
Is there anything, what would you say that identity is? I mean, and I know, it's identity and it's cliche and everything, but, what do you think the points are that Doug Pederson's hammering home here?
Yeah, I think he doesn't like to use the word physical, but I think everything that engulfs that word without saying that word would preach that mentality and everything. You got to be able to move people on that offensive front, right? You got to be able to protect, and then he thinks the backs probably will do their job if they do that as well. But and his offense. I mean, it's part of his offense. You can't do what happened last year and have to rip out a third of the playbook because you can't run for a yard. Yeah. You can't be playing against Tennessee on 3rd and 4th and goal and not really be a threat to hand the ball off to a running back and get a yard.
Yeah, so this is my point where it's you have a lot to be excited about. You guys played sound, clean football, not a lot of penalties. Guys were in the right spots. But I still think you have to build off that identity and being physical in the trenches, especially on the offensive side of the ball when you choose to run with your ones.
Yeah, and listen, so I couch this with saying I'm not telling you that he thinks he has a Super Bowl team. I'm just saying where they're at in camp. I feel like you've got a coach that feels like they're getting the message. They put a lot in, and again, it's not perfect. I'm not trying to say that. I think Doug's really good about telling everybody, hey, you're not finishing the first month even. The Miami game's not going to tell the story. We might not even know the story until the Houston game, or it might be October sometime. He knows the league well enough to know that. I just think where you're supposed to be at, maybe at this stage, I think they're in a pretty good place. That's my take from just watching some body language. That might be overreading Doug, but it's kind of one of the takes that I got listening to the news conference today from Doug Pederson. One other thought on that, too, and you got to, from a coaching standpoint, if you're trying to implement some of the things that didn't work out so well last year and you're starting to see them, this whole change and develop kind of mentality. There's one other part of this that must make him very pleased, and that's Ryan Nielsen's defense. Mm-hmm. Nielsen, if you're that's a tough decision, I would assume, as a coach, right? Hey, Caldwell did a lot of good things. In fact, sometimes their defense outperformed the Jags' offense the last couple of years.
Yeah, but how it ended, it wasn't a tough decision at all.
You think it was a pretty easy decision?
I mean, maybe there's friendships involved, maybe there's relationships involved, but this is supposed to be a performance-based business. And when you talk about a performance-based business, what the Jaguars did the last 5 weeks or whatever, especially the last game of the season when the season was on the line, they didn't perform. So I don't think it was a hard decision at all for Doug Pederson.
Okay, well, if that part was easy, the hard part is finding the right guy then.
Sure.
And so I think now you feel like this is really working. I mean, don't we have the sense that on defense is really – you're hearing players just rave about Nielsen. Mm-hmm. Nielsen obviously feels like he's got their attention and the changes that are being made. So just again, I'm trying to take it from Doug's perspective. I don't think these are big things in the building or even outside. We're just going to still watch highlights and want to see a touchdown pass to Evan Ingram today in 7-on-7, right? That's what we want to do.
I'll take that.
But I think from a coach building standpoint, you probably see some of those things that I bet Doug's pretty pleased about at this point. Josh says, if our defense puts on strong performance against the Dolphins' high-powered offense, I'm confident we'll be a top 3 unit the rest of the season. Whoa, top 3.
Wishful thinking. I'll settle at top 8 right now and work from there.
Yeah, I'd take top 10.
Yeah.
I'm a top 10 guy. I don't need to be top 3 guy. Mm-hmm. You can be top 10 in a couple different areas. You're probably going to be pretty good. Mm-hmm. It's to bring up Miami's interesting. If I had asked you your confidence level in this defense in June about going in that Miami game, speed and everything else. I mean, it's kind of like, that's a daunting one now, right out of the gates. And I'm not telling you it's any less daunting. I just think with what we've seen on the field from this defense, a little bit more confidence on this side that they can do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, a little bit. But also I think in terms of offense, Miami might be one of the best ones in the NFL, at least on paper.
Well, they are. That's why it was daunting.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah, there's a lot to like about Ryan Nielsen's defense right now, and I think, it's already exceeding expectations. But, do we still think that they can lock up Tyson Campbell and Jalen Waddle? Can they still, from the linebacker spot, handle all the motion, stop Mostert and everything? I mean, those are still some big questions.
Yeah, and Hamby, that's actually a really good question to ponder because the Jags they did okay against Houston in that from that schematic standpoint. They did a terrible job against San Francisco in that. And San Francisco has a ton of weapons, so when they execute it, it really is hard to stop. But Miami has a ton of weapons, so if they execute it, it could be really hard to stop.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I don't care how fast it seems like the Nielsen system is being implemented. There's still going to be growing pains. So it's like you really got to be careful with your expectations for that week 1 against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. In my opinion, if you're a Jags fan, just because it's going to take time to really get things going defensively, especially with guys playing in new spots. Even that alone, even if there wasn't a new defensive coordinator, then I'd still have concerns. So as much as I've loved what we've seen from the defense in training camp, I'm not sure that's really even given me any more confidence going into week 1.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know how that game's going to go. I don't think anybody does. Week 1's a crazy deal. So you could have a lot of confidence that the defense is, performing pretty well, but then there's 2 weeks go by, and all of a sudden you come out of the gates and Miami drops 40.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a team that dropped 70.
Yeah.
That's there is still that. So it's going to be a fascinating game. I think like what you guys are saying too. Whatever happens in week 1 doesn't tell the story. We know that. Like that's around the National Football League. But it could certainly get you excited if things go well,
Sure.
and very disappointed if things don't.
Well, and to me, like once again, you just mentioned it. I mean, it's week 1. Like you're not going to know what kind of team you have in week 1. Maybe it'll be an outlier where the Dolphins drop 40. Maybe the Jaguars hold them to 220. We don't know, but we will be excited if the Jaguars can stop the Dolphins' offense, obviously. But the team that you see in week 1 isn't going to be the final product when the season's all said and done.
Am I dumb for saying that it would be logical to put more stock in week 1 if we play well than because every time this is what we do as fans. When we play well, we think it's legit. When we don't play well, it's a fluke. Oh, it's only week 1. But because it's Miami's offense, wouldn't that be reason for that logic to actually apply, where you actually take stock in it if we hold them to 20? But if they score 34, 37, it's no big deal. It's week 1.
No, I mean, listen, two of the most cliche phrases in the NFL in locker rooms but they're true, is that you gain your most experience from year 1 to year 2, and you change as a team the most from week 1 to week 2. So I'm not gonna if the Jaguars can hold the Dolphins to 20 points, absolutely. That's something to celebrate and everything. But I'm not going to sit here and say we have a top 5 defense then. It's not how it works. It's not how the league works. So it's okay to get excited if the Jaguars defense shows out against Miami, but I'm not going to sit here and say they're the real deal now. You got to earn that in weeks 3, weeks 4, weeks 5 to see what we really have as a product.
Yeah, and totally agree with that. Now, we will be either throwing parades or jumping off bridges. Either
of course.
way. I mean, let's
That's the way it works.
That is the way it goes in the NFL. It might do that even in the 3rd preseason game. But here's what I think on that. We're talking a lot about the defense. The bottom line is coming out of that game against Miami is really all the pressure on the offense, because the Jags could lose that game, right? And we could say, oh yeah, they lost 35-31, but the offense did its thing, and Miami's really good on offense, right? What you really don't want to happen, I think, coming out of that game is the Jags scored 13 points.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That's unacceptable coming out. That's where things would feel a little off, and start to already build, right? Build on Press Taylor, build on Trevor, because the one thing that was wild to me last year, and I don't think ever really got looked at enough because it was Kansas City. This team was kind of freaked out a little bit, I thought, by the fact they had lost to Kansas City 17-9. It wasn't that they lost to Kansas City. It was that they only scored 9 points. The defense had done its job to beat Kansas City. There is no doubt in any way, shape, form, every team in the league would say, okay, hold Kansas City to 17, we're going to win the game.
Right.
Sure.
And now we didn't know at the time, this was early in the season, it's week 3. We didn't know at the time that Kansas City's defense was really good. Nobody scored over 20 against them all year, basically.
Sure.
So But that was alarming. I remember going into that locker room after, and they were pissed. They were like shell-shocked that they had all those opportunities. Because remember, I think that game Trevor went like 0 for 7 or something in the red zone.
Okay.
And something like that. Maybe it was 1 for 7 or 1. But remember all those back of the end zone plays that were real close, like with Zay Jones and stuff?
Yeah.
And, I mean, they had these opportunities, and they just didn't do a good job with it at all. And so there was so much frustration, I remember, in that locker room that almost to the same level that you sensed at the end of the year when they lost to Tennessee, because I think they looked at that Kansas City game as a missed opportunity.
He's 22 of 41, 215 yards passing.
Yeah, and Chris Jones hails his welcome back game, and he kind of wrecked the whole game.
He had 4 sacks.
And
or
he
not
had
Chris Jones, but Trevor was sacked 4 times.
Yeah, and Trevor made a bad call, like he audibled on a play. Remember, like the face mask play? Like, so there was just like some of the decision stuff, the execution stuff, and it was all right there in front of him. The defense, again, held the Chiefs to 17.
Yeah.
Like, they were right there. And I just remember feeling that locker room. I was like, whoa. Now, that wasn't like a derailer. I think it was more of a wake-up call because it was week 3, right, Hamby?
2.
Oh, that was week 2. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, then they lost to Houston.
Then London.
So I thought they were pissed coming out of that game that they were going to beat Houston. Well, what happened, it actually snowballed in a different way. And then they go to London and kind of collect themselves, and that's where the season flips. But they really played bad for 2 weeks on offense especially.
Yeah.
And they were clunky coming out of the gates against Indianapolis. But I just remember that locker room against Kansas City. They were so pissed because they're like, man, we just blew a chance here. Like,
let one, slip through their fingers.
yeah, and there was still last year on their mind, right, trying to build off and beat Kansas City. Had a little bit of a feel of 2018 when the Jags beat New England in the regular season after they had missed the opportunity in the AFC Championship game. Okay, but we took down Goliath here in the regular season. Here we go, and then it all fell apart in 18. But it had a little bit of that feel where, like, hey, we missed the opportunity. Yeah, we were the upstart team that lost to Kansas City, but we're going to take them over this year. And we had a chance on our home field, and we blew it.
Yeah.
So that's some of these early games. And now, listen, that did not set the table for how the rest of the season went. Neither did 2018, to your point, which we know, like that first quarter of the year. Those are 2 examples of it just didn't work out the way it kind of felt in middle of September, to back up what you're saying. It's a long road ahead. So
there it is, the Trevor Lawrence Ingram touchdown, 7-on-7s in the back of the end zone.
There we go. Got one, right? Dominate that 7-on-7.
That's it.
A lot of compliments, by the way, for Trevor, even from the Tampa Bay Bucs guys yesterday, the way he was getting rid of the ball, the way he was chucking it around. So, I mean, that's never a bad thing. Trevor has really settled into this camp and played pretty well after that one Saturday, which is also better than the alternative. I guess we could remind ourselves.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austin Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
All right, here we go. We got a little action from earlier today. Gabe Davis over the middle from Trevor Lawrence. What else do we see, Austin?
Tank, wait, hold on. No. Wow, we got Tank Bigsby running routes.
You don't want to see that?
I mean, no, it's cool if you can do that. But, I mean, go ahead and give me more of that I formation between the tackles. But, hey, Tank, go ahead and get it where you fit in, man. If you catch the ball, too, even better.
What else we got here? Let's see. A little more Trevor. Oh, that was
Evan
a beauty
Ingram,
right there, wasn't
get
it?
Get used to that. We've been talking about this on the show.
That's a pretty
Obviously,
one.
receptions could be down a little bit, but in terms of fantasy numbers, we might see it go in slow motion.
slow-mo.
There you go.
Oh, atta baby.
Wow,
Stuart
really
Weber.
optimizing the iPhone usage here. But the touchdowns could be up. Mac Jones now, return of the Mac, if you will.
D'Ernest.
Okay.
Well, Dearness Johnson.
Getting the running backs
I was going to
involved
say,
today in
you
the
think
passing
we're going
game.
to see this a lot more running backs just in general as part of this offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see Travis Etienne showcase this.
gosh.
Ooh, Evan Ingram.
Hold on, I got to catch that again.
This one is one I'll advocate for you rewinding. This is a heck of a throw here
What a
now.
window.
Are they just in shell? They're just in shells, huh? Are they in full pads? I can't.
Yeah, nope. I don't know fans.
Full pad? I can't tell here.
Oh, here's the bomb.
Well, I didn't know he'd have the bomb. I thought
Brian
that was,
Thomas Jr., thanks for playing.
Oh.
Boom. 80-8 out the gate.
Wow.
Okay, so I think it's shells today.
Golly, that was
You love to see that.
60 yards in the air from Trevor.
That's
Can you, Hammy, I mean, I know we don't like to do it, but can you reel it? Yeah.
It looks
I just
like he's
wanna
in
see-
the slot
I just want
to
to,
the
yeah.
left.
I just want to see if he puts on a
Double move.
hesitation.
Oh, yeah.
So it is. It was a double move? I can't tell. Sorry.
He cuts in.
I'm watching the wrong
fakes a
guy.
Post.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, separation's there, though. Now, I feel like the safety kind of let up a little bit at the end, but we'll take that, man. We'll take that all day. That's beautiful.
All right, get us back out here, Hamby, and what I want you to...
About to get a slap on the wrist for showing too much.
Yeah, okay, be careful how much you show. But Trevor seems like on point. You know, again, I said this earlier, that Saturday practice was like, whoa, wait a minute now, right? Caught everybody's attention. That's way in the rear view. I went to saying last week, like, hey, things have steadied down a bit now, and now these last couple of days against the Bucs in practice, really some good throws, good-looking throws to Ingram in the end zone. That one that we just saw yesterday that we had as well was a really good one. That throw down the seam, like that's a big boy throw there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big boy throw, and I think what we're seeing from these routes being ran here is, and listen, I don't want to put too much stake into it, right? It's just one practice and everything, but we talked about a couple days ago with Parker Washington, how do you get this guy involved? Because from the slot, that's probably going to be Christian Kirk's dojo. How can you incorporate Parker Washington a little bit? Can you give him that Cooper Kupp treatment and kind of move him around the wide receivers if you need him in there? And I think watching some of these routes, watching some of what these guys are doing, I wonder if you're going to have some interchangeable positions in terms of the wide receiver group. Like, we visualize, all right, we're going to have Brian Thomas Jr. on the outside. You know, he's going to be hopefully the one. And then on the other side, you're going to have Gabe Davis. And then, you know, in the slot, you're going to have Christian Kirk. And then, you know, Evan Ingram's going to be on the line of scrimmage playing tight end. But now I wonder, like, okay, can you kind of interchange these guys a little bit? Can you go like a tripped formation, put Brian Thomas Jr. maybe in the slot a little bit, let him work that juke move like we just saw, sell the inside, then go up? I think he's capable of that. So when we talk about guys who can do more than one position, and keep in mind, Evan Ingram too, we call him a tight end, but he's really got more of a giant wide receiver body. Mm-hmm. I think we can see more concepts in terms of a little interchangeable. You know, a little, maybe put, you know, Evan Ingram in the slot for a play. Maybe put Brian Thomas Jr. in the slot for a play. And that's just going to keep defenses on their heels even more and keep defensive coordinators up at night having nightmares.
Yeah, I think it seems like they want to go that way. And I think the best example of that is Parker Washington moving around a bunch because we thought we could slide him like right behind Kirk. It's like, how are you going to get him on the field? Well, they're trying to mix and match. And you know what I always don't understand? If on the very elementary level of football,
okay,
and I get you're better in certain spots or from your route running or skill set, but why not just like, why isn't this just like backyard football? Why is it so hard to go play multiple spots?
I mean, because
have we gotten too label-y?
I mean, there's a lot of interchangeable stuff now because like teams don't just stick with one formation. Yeah. So like you do see change-ups and everything, but usually you have certain guys do certain things well.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Stuart Weber does some things well.
Yeah,
and so he's going to join us right now from Jags camp and right outside. It's been an exciting morning again, man. We got some highlights happening for that Jaguars offense. Seems like Trevor really is on point. The fans must be loving it.
Yeah, and I will preface it by saying that that's the 7-on-7 stuff, and I'm showing you the offensive side more so. Was over on the defensive side, and I kind of feel like all those drills were very much schemed for the offense to do a little better than the defense, based on what I was seeing. So yes, you get some fun little highlights there, but preface it with the fact that that wasn't the 11-on-11 stuff, which also isn't the truest representation without them wearing the full pads. As far as what the offensive and defensive lines are doing. But yeah, it's good to see him. He's always going to connect with Evan Ingram, so you get plenty of that. The Brian Thomas Jr. stuff is encouraging for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Hamby, why don't you get Weber fixed up if we can, because he doesn't even have the earbuds in today, and he still sounds like crap. So just let this be known, Austin Lane, that Stewart's like on the level of technical.
Okay.
Stewart is like a 10.
Sure.
And I'm like a 3.
Okay.
But how did my stuff sound yesterday?
Your stuff sounded really good.
Yeah, thank you. Just checking.
Now, when is Stuart Weber going to do the master class of how to shoot a video at practice? Because that was
very good.
I mean, it was good.
It was
good. You know, you're breaking all your NFL films yesterday.
Yeah, he's a good shooter.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
I don't know what's up with his phone, though. We got to get him a new phone. We thought it was the AirPods like that he had, so he doesn't use them anymore. He gets mad about the AirPods.
Yeah.
And now it wasn't that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what was up. But, obviously he was looking at the offensive side. We'll get some stuff a little bit later probably from the defensive side. Yeah, let's try him again. We have no problem doing that. He's taking the time to do it. We want to make the most of his time, but he'd be mad if he sounded like the way he did.
I would be mad, yeah.
Boom, he's back.
What did you do? I want to know what you did. What did you fix?
With his something in the Ninja settings I never had to look at before.
I wanted it to be Weber's fault.
He's
it was
frozen,
your
guys.
fault?
He's frozen. It's gone.
That was even better.
Gotta be kidding me.
That was even better.
Russell Tapley, Austin. I think we can open run lanes. Defensive coordinators will just have the guys sitting on routes. And then, I mean.
What in the heck?
You're up, Weber. Let's go.
What in the heck? Weber, that was...
Unreal.
Did you see that? Did you just see what just happened?
Oh, yeah. The glasses flick was a nice touch.
That was good. Weber, that part was out of everybody's control. That was just like internet service out there at the bank.
Okay. Well, here we are. Hi there. How are we doing?
We're great. You sound good. You look good.
All right. Yes. I was more worried about the first part. I knew the second part was true. So yeah, back to practice. Practice. Yeah, it's good, man. We're out here. We got both teams out here. It's exciting to see. This is your last chance to kind of see the starters before next week because they're not really going to play on Saturday. So good to see them in there getting some work in, and I look forward to getting in there and seeing the rest of kind of our 11-on-11 stuff.
Stuart, you're kind of breaking up a little bit. Are they in shells right now, or are they in just helmets? Because it looks like, and I mean, listen, the Brian Thomas Jr. touchdown was chef's kiss and way to capture it. Can't wait for your masterclass of how to shoot a proper practice video. But it seemed like the safeties maybe at the end kind of laid off a little bit. Are they just kind of going a little lighter with just helmets?
Yes, It is lighter. They don't have the full pads on, so that certainly makes a difference. The irony is that I'm probably not as happy with the Brian Thomas shot because I was kind of just getting a little crowd shot and saying, all right, let's see how this develops. And of course, it develops into a long bomb like that. I was planning to do the wide shot to the zoom, but I know you as a player would want the wide shot because you like to see formations and then illegally say them on the stream. Rule breakers over here. But I wasn't as happy because I like to get as tight in there as I can and do a little ball follow NFL film style as I like to do. But I'm glad we could showcase that for you.
Yeah, well, that's what Brent likes to do too as well.
We all have an ego. I mean, listen, at least you weren't showing goalposts and Nike referee shirts.
Sorry, Liv. My bad.
Sorry, Liv.
Still great work by Liv Tass, everybody. Yeah.
Hey, well, how's the crowd out there? Yesterday was pretty good, but it's interesting where this falls on the calendar. Everybody's back in school, but you do get some Bucs fans that probably come over and not from Tampa, but that are in the area. And this is really about it. This feels like the end of camp. It's not technically the end of camp, but it kind of feels like the end of camp, doesn't it, Stuart?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think I'm trying to recall. I think Doug said in his press conference this morning that this pretty much is the end of camp. We go into more of a game week style next week for the Atlanta trip. So yeah, you could tell the crowds have gotten their fill of training camp football, and the ones who are here are the diehards that really want to see it. And so on Saturday we'll get the fans in the bank to watch some backups. Here we go.
Hey, the backups were actually kind of exciting the other night, I will say.
Yeah, I mean that is a cool part of this year's camp, right? And Coach Pederson was asked this morning, is this going to be the hardest as far as decisions for you and the coaching staff to make that 53, to make the cut down? And he said by far this will be the hardest of the 3 years he's been in Jacksonville, simply with the competition, especially in the trenches on those offensive and defensive lines, and in the secondary as well, where they're now very deep with a lot of veteran guys and young guys battling it out. So. Yes, the players that will be on the field are going to be the ones who are the most motivated and the ones that need to put forth their best foot. So it will be exciting from a football purist standpoint and somebody who likes to follow that 53 in the depth chart.
Stuart Weber hanging out with us, and he'll obviously be at the game Saturday night. He's at practice today. Catching up with Chad Muma today, which will be interesting to hear from him because he was a star Saturday night, one of the guys that really flashed, and his role changes this year. Austin talked a bunch about him yesterday. I think he's intrigued by it. The whole linebacker spot, Weber, is kind of fascinating to watch unfold with guys moving around.
Yeah, it is, and as we mentioned, with those starters not going, it's going to be a good showcase game for Chad to be able to really take command of that linebacking core. And he's been able to do it in practice here too. Foye coming back from that hamstring injury that kept him out of the first preseason game or the first practice the other day. Definitely a good opportunity for Chad to go out there and show what he's learned from this Ryan Nielsen defense. I know we've talked a lot about the defensive line because that's who he's working with so frequently, right, in these practices. But the linebacker change is going to be evident as well, and we'll see some signs of that on Saturday night.
All right, man. Go back to work. Appreciate you jumping in for a few minutes, and we'll showcase those beautiful highlights once again here in a minute.
All right, sounds good, guys.
Really, this is kind of the talker of the morning in the last couple of days. The offense of the Jags has, at least in these kind of periods, had the better part of the Bucs. And when the lines were going at it, the Bucs kind of did their thing and pushed them around. But from Gabe Davis to really Brian Thomas Jr. has emerged the most, and some great connections to Evan Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing about the running back stuff, Austin, is a lot of it's been in the middle of the field, not just like these little swing passes.
Yeah, I mean, swing passes, obviously when you go towards the sideline, you leave yourself open to get, people can corral you a little more. When you go, talk about the angle routes like we saw Travis Etienne use, it's a little more of a man on an island sometimes where, you can kind of expose somebody. So you'll see a combination. It all depends on the matchups and everything. And like we've talked about before, if you get a linebacker, even heck, I'll take a safety on Travis Etienne. I like those odds in terms of getting him the ball and getting him open.
All right, so here's a beautiful one. These two people love them. Look at that.
And, yep.
Again, the middle of the field is...
I don't have a frame in between that.
The middle of the field has been a thing, right? And look, just a beautiful throw and catch in traffic by Evan Ingram. And that might really symbolize what they're trying to do. Ingram get down the field a little bit more on that seam route.
Yep. Letting it develop, letting it breathe. Yeah, the safety might have light up a little bit, but don't care. Brian Thomas Jr. just burned you.
Yeah, he did kind of light up a little bit there.
Well,
didn't he?
That's what happens when you wear just helmets.
Yeah.
You're not, you want to. The most important part is to keep guys safe and healthy here. So whoever that, it doesn't look good on tape, whoever that safety is, but we appreciate you letting up because those are when the injuries can happen. When it's full speed, you're running, 40, 50 yards down the field and everything, ankles get tripped up, someone gets, things can happen.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, whoever that player was.
Hey, let's switch back to football. I want to, if people are just jumping in here at the top of the hour, hour number 3. What's that?
What do you want me to show here?
The offensive highlights.
Okay.
We got some defensive ones too. We can do that a little bit later.
Oh, don't do that to me, Brent. Come on, man.
Offensive highlights is what everybody wants to see.
Yeah, I know.
So just in case you're jumping in, here's from earlier today. Trevor and Gabe Davis and a little bit of, I think, Tank Bigsby in here, but you'll catch a little later on. The Ingram passes and catches, and then obviously Brian Thomas Jr. also getting the headlines.
Hard to be a super sleeper when you're making plays in the receiving game now, too, as a running back, Brent. That train may have left the station.
Yeah.
We got next year, then we're going back to Evan Ingram. Get used to it, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to be a red zone darling.
Right there, man. That's just a good throw.
He's going to be a red zone darling. Better get out your cough drops. You're going to be saying a lot of Evan Ingram in the end zone. That's another touchdown. I'm not sure who's calling the Jaguars games.
In the regular season or now?
In the regular season.
Well, it could be a bunch of.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, well,
Andrew Catalan will at one time.
Catalan, yep. Oh, by the way, I was going to ask you, since we're on the topic of announcers. You watched the men's basketball, right?
Yeah.
The USA thing.
Yeah.
Who was the dude that was? What's that guy's name?
Noah Eagle.
Noah Eagle.
Yeah.
You fan of Noah Eagle?
I don't mind. I actually think as a young guy, his dad is like Ian Eagle.
Yeah.
I think he does a pretty good job for looking 12 years old. He's got like a really good voice.
So that's what I was going to. And there's the catch to Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're talking about Noah Eagle right now.
Noah Eagle. What?
Yeah, well, I was gonna because it spawned my memory, but yeah, I had this conversation with my friend. Hang on, just a moment of silence here.
Yeah.
Oh, I
good.
mean, looked at it. Kids at home watching,
Yeah, last
if you're in
repeat.
Pop Warner, make sure you make that diamond, when you catch that football.
One more.
Just like Brian Thomas Jr. did.
Okay, so Trevor's throwing from the what? The 10? I mean, because if we go back to this video,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell.
okay, I'm gonna go 10.
Okay.
That red zone.
Yeah, that's about right. Probably the 9 or 10-yard line. Yeah.
Let's see where he catches this football.
Now, is this a 100-yard field?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the 25, 20, 15. 10. This is the 25. So what's that math?
It's a 120-yard pass.
No.
Oh.
65.
65.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about right.
Nice.
65 in the air, bro.
Hang on,
He's got that. He's the number one
can
overall
you go
pick.
back a little bit more, please?
Yep.
Because, obviously burnt him like toast, coast to coast. No, dude I do it for a living. No celebration, no nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If that was Tyreek Hill, we're getting on a horse, we're doing something, we're grittying, we're doing a
We're
backflip.
talking about practice.
Still dude, Travis Kelce punted a ball in the stands when he scored a touchdown when I played there. But Brian Thomas Jr., man, just a man about the business. I respect it.